The sky above Outpost 14 burned red with alien fire. Human defense cannons roared, spitting bright streaks of plasma into the night. Alarms screamed across the base, drowning out the voices of soldiers barking orders. Commander Ryan Hawley stood on the front line, visor down, pulse rifle warm in his hands. He had fought in 2 wars before, but nothing felt like this. The enemy was faster, stranger, and their weapons ripped through steel like paper. From the ridge, alien warships descended. In perfect formation. They were huge, silver predators against the bloody sky. The first wave of infantry landed, tall figures in black armor with curved blades that shimmered under the firelight. Ryan gave the order to hold position. The ground shook as the 2 forces collided, the air thick with smoke and screams. Every shot counted. Every breath could be the last. For hours, the humans fought without rest. Explosions tore through the dirt, sending men and machines into the air. The alien blades sliced through armor, but the human line did not break. Ryan's rifle overheated, so he drew his sidearm and kept firing. His mind was sharp, but his body burned with exhaustion. Still, retreat was not an option. Behind them were the supply bunkers, and inside those bunkers were civilians they had sworn to protect. By midnight, the battle slowed. Both sides pulled back to regroup, leaving the field littered with wreckage and bodies. Ryan stood among the ruins, breathing hard. Smoke curled from a shattered alien drone near his feet. He could hear wounded soldiers calling for medics. In the distance, the alien camp glowed faintly, like a line of watching eyes in the dark. He knew this was only the beginning, and that the next strike would come soon. The next morning, the unexpected happened. Under a white flag, a small alien shuttle approached the human base. It landed without resistance, its engines whining as the ramp lowered. Ryan and a squad of guards stood ready, weapons in hand. From the shadow stepped a single alien woman, tall and striking, her silver hair catching the sunlight. She wore ceremonial robes instead of armor, her hands empty and open in surrender. Her eyes locked on Ryan, and for a moment, the noise of the base faded. She spoke in accented English, her voice calm but strong. "I am not here to fight," she said. "I was sent as part of a gift." The soldiers around Ryan exchanged confused looks. The woman continued, "My commanders have decided to send you a bride, me, as a sign of goodwill." There was a strange pause before she added, "It is also a joke." Her tone made it clear she did not enjoy saying those words. Ryan stared at her, unsure if this was a trick, a trap, or something far worse. The war was real, and this alien was supposed to be his enemy. Yet here she was, offering herself under a flag of peace. He could see no fear in her face, only pride and defiance. Somewhere deep inside, Ryan knew this was not just a message from her people. This was the start of something far more dangerous than any battle he had fought before. Ryan did not lower his weapon. The alien woman stood still, her hands still open, her gaze locked on him. Around them, soldiers whispered to each other, unsure whether to treat her as a threat or a guest. The sound of distant repair crews working on damaged walls filled the air. Somewhere a wounded soldier groaned in pain, but all eyes stayed on the tall figure in silver robes. "Name?" Ryan demanded, his voice sharp. She lifted her chin slightly. "Zirith," she answered. "Daughter of High Warlord Threx of the Veliari Dominion." The title alone made several soldiers tense. The Veliari were known for their brutal campaigns, crushing worlds that resisted them. Yet here was their leader's daughter, standing unarmed before a human commander. Ryan's instincts screamed that this was wrong. No alien warlord would send his own child into enemy hands unless he had a hidden plan. "Why are you here?" he asked. "I already told you," she said. "To be your bride. That was the order given to me." She hesitated before adding, They think it will humiliate you. And me, her eyes hardened. It is meant to be an insult, Commander Hale. The squad looked to Ryan, waiting for him to act. The rules of war did not cover situations like this. He could turn her away, but that might be seen as rejecting. A diplomatic gesture. He could take her in, but that might mean letting a spy inside their walls. And yet, killing an unarmed envoy under a white flag was out of the question. Search her, Ryan ordered. 2 soldiers stepped forward cautiously. They checked her robes, her sleeves, and even her hair, but found no weapons or hidden devices. She stood still during the search, her expression calm, though her eyes flicked toward Ryan several times. When the search was complete, Ryan motioned for her to follow. They walked through the base. Soldiers stopped their work to stare at the strange sight. An alien woman walking beside their commander was something none of them had expected to see. The base was damaged from the previous night's battle. Craters marked the ground, walls bore scorch marks, and medics moved between tents carrying supplies. Zirith's gaze took in everything, but her face showed no reaction. Ryan brought her to the command tent. Inside, maps of the sector covered. The walls, marked with red and blue indicators showing troop positions. He gestured for her to sit, but she remained standing. If you are here as a political gesture, Ryan said, then you will stay under guard at all times. I understand, she replied, but I will not be treated like a prisoner. My presence here was ordered, but I will keep my dignity. Ryan studied her. She was proud, maybe too proud for someone in enemy territory. If this is a trick, you'll regret it, he warned. If I wanted you dead, she said, I would have brought a blade. Her tone was steady, but the message was clear. She was no helpless victim. Hours later, the base settled into uneasy quiet. Ryan assigned a small team to watch over her, giving them orders to keep her away from sensitive areas. Yet that night, when Ryan stepped outside his tent, he found her standing alone near the outer fence. The moonlight lit her silver hair, and the cold wind tugged at her robes. You should not be here, Ryan said, walking toward her. I am used to open skies, she replied. Your walls feel like cages. She looked at him directly. And I do not like cages. He stopped a few feet from her. You're in the middle of a war zone. Out here, cages are what keep people alive. She tilted her head slightly. Perhaps. But sometimes cages keep people from seeing what they are truly fighting for. Her words lingered in the air. Ryan realized she was not simply an insult sent by her people. She was a puzzle, and her presence was already stirring questions he had no time to answer. The distant boom of artillery broke the moment. A runner came from the barracks, shouting that scouts had spotted a new enemy formation moving toward them. The attack would begin within the hour. Ryan gave orders quickly, his focus snapping back to the battlefield. But as soldiers rushed to prepare, he noticed that Zirith was watching the chaos with an expression he could not read. The cold air bit at Ryan's skin as the warning sirens began to wail again. Soldiers sprinted to defensive positions, their boots pounding against the frozen dirt. The dim lights of the outpost flickered, and the distant hum of enemy engines grew louder. Ryan grabbed his helmet and rifle, moving toward the front line without hesitation. Zirith did not move. She stood in the open, watching the horizon as if she had been expecting this moment. Her silver hair whipped in the wind, and her eyes were locked on a faint line of movement in the distance. Ryan noticed the tension in her shoulders, but she said nothing until he passed her. They will attack from the west, she said, and they will bring heavy plasma cannons. Your walls will not hold. Ryan stopped and stared at her. How? Do you know that? I grew up watching their battle plans, she replied. I know how they think. And they know you will be looking toward the south, because that is where they struck before. Her words sank into him like cold water. It was possible she was lying to throw them off, but if she was telling the truth, the west flank was exposed. He made his choice quickly. "If you're wrong, I'll know you were playing a game," he warned. "If I'm wrong, I will not survive either," she said simply. Ryan changed the orders. Half the squad moved west, setting up heavier barricades and positioning artillery toward the open plain. Minutes later, the first flash lit the sky. A streak of plasma slammed into the western wall, exploding in a burst of heat and light. Soldiers ducked behind cover as alien infantry charged forward under the protection of the heavy cannons. The humans fought back fiercely. Plasma bolts scorched the barricades, shattering metal and burning the earth. Ryan shouted commands, moving from one position to the next, encouraging his troops to hold the line. The battle roared around them, the air filled with fire and the smell of ozone. Every second felt like it might be the last. Zirith had not stayed behind. She was on the wall, grabbing a fallen soldier's rifle and firing with sharp precision. Ryan saw her drop 2 enemy gunners before she ducked for cover again. She moved. Like someone who had trained all her life, her body steady under fire. It was hard to believe she had been sent as a bride meant for humiliation. Hours passed before the alien forces finally withdrew, leaving behind their dead and damaged machines. Smoke rose from the battlefield, and the western wall bore deep scars from the assault. Ryan stood among his soldiers, breathing heavily. They had held the line, but only because of the warning Zirith had given. As medics treated the wounded, Ryan approached her. "Why did you help us?" he asked. She leaned against the wall, her breathing steady despite the fight. "Because I am not here to serve my father's pride. I am here because I was ordered, but I will not watch innocent people die when I can stop it." Ryan studied her for a long moment. She was still an enemy by the rules of war, but she had fought like one of his own. Something in her eyes told him she was carrying a burden he could not yet see. That night, the base was quiet except for the low murmur of guards and the crackle of fires. Ryan found himself thinking about the way she had moved in the battle, about the way she had known the enemy's plan. She was dangerous, yes, but in a way that could be used to their advantage. He also wondered what her father would think if he knew she had defended a human outpost. Zirith sat near the edge of the camp, cleaning the rifle she had taken. She looked up when Ryan approached. "Your people will not trust me," she said. "Not yet," Ryan admitted. "Trust is earned." She gave a small nod. "Then I will earn it." Her voice was calm, but there was a quiet steel in it. For the first time, Ryan realized she might be more than a political pawn. She might be a turning point in the war. The next morning, Ryan was already awake before the sun rose. The cold air in the base cut through his uniform, but his mind was sharper than the chill. Reports from the night watch confirmed there had been no enemy movement after the failed western assault. Still, Ryan knew the Velyari were not the type to give up after a single loss. They would regroup and they would come back stronger. Zirith walked into the command tent without waiting for permission. Her silver hair was tied back, and her eyes held the same calm focus she had shown in battle. Ryan did not miss the fact that 2 guards followed her closely, but she did not seem to care. She placed a folded piece of cloth on his table and waited. Ryan opened it and found a hand-drawn map. "This is your people's territory," he said slowly. "It is not just territory," she replied. "It is a supply route. If you strike here, you will cut off half their reinforcements." She pointed to a narrow canyon marked on the map. "They will not expect you to attack. That is your advantage." Ryan leaned back, watching her carefully. "Why give me this?" "Because my father has already decided you will lose this war," she said. "He sees you as a minor obstacle, not worth his full attention. If I can change that, then I change my fate as well." Her words carried a strange weight, one Ryan could not ignore. She was risking something by giving him this information. If she was lying, the humans could walk into a trap. If she was telling the truth, it could shift the balance of the war. Ryan called for his senior officers. They studied the map, argued over the risks, and finally agreed to send a small strike team. If the mission succeeded, it would cripple the enemy's supply lines. Ryan would lead the operation himself, but to his surprise, Zirith insisted on coming. "You will need someone who knows the terrain," she said. "Without me, you will waste hours trying to find the pass. Hours you cannot afford." It went against every rule to bring an enemy into a mission, but Ryan had learned not to underestimate her. He gave a reluctant nod. "You will follow my orders, no exceptions." "I will," she said, her voice steady. Before sunrise, they left the base in a small transport. The air was sharp with frost, and the land stretched out in endless plains of cracked earth. Zirith sat quietly, her eyes scanning the horizon as if every shadow might hold danger. Ryan kept his rifle ready, though his gaze often shifted to her. There was something unspoken in the way she carried herself, something that did not match the image of a warlord's spoiled daughter. When they reached the canyon, the silence was heavy. The rocky walls towered above them, the shadows deep and cold. Zirith moved ahead, her steps sure as if she had walked this path many times. She raised a hand, signaling them to stop. From behind a ridge, the rumble of engines echoed. "Supply!" Vehicles began to appear, lined in a tight column. Ryan gave the order, and the strike team opened fire. Explosions ripped through the canyon, sending flames and smoke into the air. The first few vehicles tried to turn back, but the narrow path trapped them. In minutes, the supply convoy was in ruins, and the survivors fled on foot. The mission was a clean success. As they returned to the transport, Ryan noticed that Zirith was not smiling. She looked toward the burning wrecks with an unreadable expression. "You are thinking about them," he said. "They were soldiers," she replied. "Many of them would have killed you without hesitation. But I knew some of their faces." Ryan understood. War did not care about old ties, and survival demanded harsh choices. Still, the thought of her knowing those they had just destroyed made him wonder how deep her loyalty to humanity could truly run. Back at the base, the news of the strike spread quickly. Morale rose among the soldiers, but whispers about Zirith grew louder. Some saw her as a hero for guiding the mission, while others called her a spy who was only pretending to help. Ryan heard both sides, but he knew the truth was more complicated. She was not just helping them. She was carving out her own path, and he did not yet know where it would lead. The victory in the canyon gave the humans a much-needed advantage. Supply shortages began to weaken the Velyari, and Ryan used every opportunity to push them back. But with every day that passed, the tension inside the base grew. Zirith had become both a respected ally and a target of suspicion. Soldiers who fought beside her in battle trusted her, but others still saw her as the enemy's daughter. One evening, Ryan found her in the medic's tent, tending to a wounded private. She had learned enough of human medicine to clean and wrap the soldier's injuries. The private thanked her quietly, and Ryan noticed the small smile she gave in return. It was not the expression of someone playing a role. It was genuine care, and that unsettled him more than any suspicion. When the War Council met, Ryan presented a plan to launch a final strike against the Velyari command post. Zirith was at his side, pointing out weaknesses in her people's defenses. The other officers listened, but once the meeting ended, one of them pulled Ryan aside. "She has you under her influence," the officer said. "You can't see it, but she's controlling you." Ryan's voice was cold. "I see more than you think, and I know where her loyalty lies." The officer said nothing more, but Ryan could feel the distrust lingering in the air. The final battle came at dawn. Human forces advanced under heavy fire, pushing through the outer defenses. Zirith moved with them, her rifle steady, her voice clear as she guided squads through dangerous corridors. Inside the Velyari command bunker, Ryan faced High Warlord Threx himself. The towering alien fought with brutal strength, his blade cutting through the air with deadly speed. Ryan blocked, countered, and finally drove him back with a shot to the chest. The warlord fell, but his gaze shifted to Zereth. "You," he spat. "My own blood standing with them." His voice dripped with fury. "I stand with what is right," she replied. Her tone did not shake, but Ryan saw the weight of her choice in her eyes. With Threx defeated, the remaining Velyari forces surrendered. The war was over, but the air between Ryan and Zereth was thick with unspoken words. Back at the base, soldiers cheered the victory, yet many still questioned what would happen next with the alien woman who had helped them win. That night, in the quiet of the command tent, Zereth came to Ryan. She stood tall, but her voice was softer than he had ever heard. "There is something you must know," she said. Ryan waited, his eyes fixed on hers. "When I was sent here," she continued, "my people meant it as a joke. But I swore to myself that I would not be used as a pawn. During our time together, I made my choice. I chose you. Not because of orders, not because of politics, but because you fought for your people with honor." Her hand rested lightly on her stomach. Ryan understood the meaning instantly. She was carrying his child. It was not the result of some scheme or forced union, but of a bond formed in the fire of war. She had not told him sooner because she wanted to be sure of her place, and now she was certain. "This child will belong to both our worlds," she said. "And maybe it will be the bridge that stops the next war." Ryan looked at her, seeing not the enemy's daughter, not a political gift, but the woman who had stood beside him in the worst of the fight. He reached for her hand, and for the first time since the war began, he felt a future worth believing in. Outside, the campfires burned low, and the soldiers rested after the long struggle. The world was scarred, but it was also alive with new possibilities. The war had brought destruction, but it had also brought something no one had expected. An alliance born not from treaties or orders, but from trust, sacrifice, and a choice made by two warriors from different worlds.